Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to the Lifecycle working group. Today is February 2nd, and we have a couple of organization topics on the agenda and review topics as well. So firstly, does anyone want to introduce themselves? Okay, let's go. So as each year, so this is the first for our working group, we need to make an annual report. And yeah, so yeah, sorry, I have to share my screen. Okay. So as I said, there is a annual report coming up where we have to summarize our activity during the half of the year we existed. So I think we need to open a PR to basically fill in this template and like specify our work or our caps we worked on, or give any other like documents or information tracking our activity. This links together with the working group leads update we did quite recently. So we decided to trim the number of leads, and we thank every of these leads, Joe, Fabrizio, Peter, Humble, and Christoph, for helping us with the working group and helping us with the reviews. So yeah, so like we had like a group decision to basically have only three leads as it's expected. So this was a large number of leads, and we basically started with this to kickstart the working group. And yeah, so but if this changes in the future, we can amend this list or change it as needed. Um, okay, so yeah, any questions about the annual report, or does anyone want to share some new things or insights? Okay, so I guess I will open the PR and then I can link it, and we can collaborate on the PR. Okay, so the next thing is like eviction request API, which is my topic, and we've been doing some reviews, and cap freeze is
Philip,
coming. Yeah.
Philip, can I ask actually, do we maybe what do we have to, so you mentioned there's the open issue for the annual report. Um there's a due date for this in 2 weeks. Do we how should we decide like how do we want to do this? Like should we I'm assuming you, me, or Lucy, one of us needs to write this and publish this, right? And then we can agree, like, because we given the time we have, I mean, should we do we want to align on like how we want to do this? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I have never done this before, but I think like this is most like for bookkeeping purposes. So, yeah, I don't expect like anything major. Maybe we will list our caps and like issues or documents we worked on, mention our like Cube Talk or other interesting like things that came up, and basically tick all the boxes. So I don't know like if anyone has any other ideas we should do.
I don't think the bar's going to be very high for us because our working group was formed in like this year. So we are not going to be expected to show the same output as like a SIG would over the course of a year. A lot of it is going to be the working group is formed. And that is fine. Next year, maybe steering would have a bit more of an issue if we didn't have any keps in. This year, I think it'll be completely fine.
Okay. Do we, well, okay. One of us has to submit a PR though. Do
But
you
yeah,
want me?
yeah,
I
yes.
could.
On the practical side, I
Do you
think
want to?
why don't we have a, the group DM we have of the leads? Why don't we have a discussion in there about how we want to format out the PR?
All right. Sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
one
we
of us
can.
done.
yeah, we can organize who will submit the PR or like gather the resources. And then I think we have to ping our liaison for the group to tag the PR.
Yeah, that seems fine. We can discuss it on Slack.
Okay, cool. Okay, as I was saying, unless anyone has other topics, uh, like enhancements freeze is coming up next week, so there is not much time to like for a proper cap reviews and like new features, but we have like these two proposals coming up, and we've been quite set on the Ocean Request API up until recently. During the reviews, we basically discovered like a couple of things that would be nice to have or fixed. I will go through these items, but like since we are mostly set on the API, we would like not to like propose any like big changes and basically try to resolve most of these items in Alpha 2. So like the API as it stands, like fulfills the purpose. So you can like describe your interceptors, which are only now the managing controller of the pod. And you can have like late registration for the requesters. So you can have like multiple entities like requesting the eviction of the pod. And then we have like these couple of items that interceptors should synchronize to basically tell us about their status, about the state of the eviction itself. So these are the eviction active interceptor completed, the expected finish time, and the heartbeat, and optionally like the cancellation policy and the message. And so this should work like conceptually, but I think like the main issue, like which also Joel pointed in the review, is like the proper ownership of these fields. And he also didn't like the like Boolean value for the interceptor completed. Like which if like during the API review, if there is a big issue with that, like we can change that to an enum if we want. Yeah, but basically the problem is that the same fields are accessed by same intercept or by different interceptors, and there could be like some races for like updating these fields. So one interceptor could basically flag the completion. Sorry, where was I? No, this is the different. This is the update. So sorry. So one interceptor could flag the completion for the other interceptor, and this would not be like basically like detected, or we could not do much about it. And so like I try to bring like a different approach like to the discussion. And this is basically I have a second branch with the request status, and this would allow us to basically split this to a list of interceptor statuses, and each interceptor would have their own field. And like the nice thing about this is that we could use like server-side apply, and like each like owner or a manager would basically have their own like structure that they manage, and there should not be like any overlap of ownership. And for this, we also have this two lists, like the active interceptors and process interceptors, that would be like reconciled by the eviction request controller. So like technically you could add like a flag to this struct, like for also like is it active or is it not? But for like ownership purposes, it's better like if we have our own controller, like the core controller just reconciles these two, like moves to the active, like moves the interceptors to active interceptors, and then moves the active to the processed ones. So this would basically just do this, and the interceptors would reconcile their own status. And we also, I think we can also do like a proper like validation. So if we see that we don't have an like active interceptor and we see an update to an interceptor that is not active, we could basically validate this on API level and like uh, exit or dismiss the request. So the client would see that the update did not go through. Basically, would get a validation error that they are not allowed to update it. So this has like some nice advantages. The API will like behave more like nicely. Yeah, Lucy.
Yes, I wanted to come in and give the same comments I left in the group chat because I know that not everyone's in there. And so I think this is something that we should talk about, but I don't think we should talk about it right now. That's not because it's not valid and it's not useful and it does not have merit, because it absolutely does have all three. It's because of the context we're in. We missed the kept freeze for the last release, and if we change the arch now, we will miss the kept freeze for the next release. So we will effectively have the entire eviction request kept, the whole thing, even the concept of an eviction request, unmerged for 3 releases in a row, and that starts to make me anxious about what we can show we're actually doing in this working group. I'm not going to name names, but there are plenty of working groups in SIGs in the past who have had plenty of discussion but no output. I do not want us to become that. I think that when I think about this change, I think that a lot of it makes sense, but a lot of it is way too much to put on with a week to go effectively until kept freeze, right? I think this is something we absolutely should revisit, but I think we should revisit it after kept freeze, basically after we have got the alpha 1 version of eviction request in, because I would like to start getting signal from users on how does this feel as an API in general. How is it useful to you? I can't do that without a merge kep. And the same thing inside Uber. We have an implementation of eviction requests, which we are going to upstream, but that those folks keep having to change it because the entire kept sheet's changing, and that can be changed. Basically, what I'm saying is that this is a very valid change, and I want to discuss it, and I want to make sure this is the right change, but I don't want to do it right now because I think that right now this is the more important thing right now is calling for consensus and merging on the alpha 1 of eviction request in time for the kept freeze, so that we do not miss the release, the release 2 times in a row, because I don't think any of us wants to miss the release 2 times in a row. I'm gonna
Yeah, sorry, Peter, if I can respond. Yeah, I think like we are on the same page. Basically, this is not a blocking thing or change that we should do. I'm just bringing this up so that we acknowledge like the API review, that we see the issues, we have the solution, we know when we will come like back forward with the solution. And like the one disadvantage is that like as we saw like during API reviews, like people really don't like the like increased like mental complexity of the whole model. So this is one disadvantage of that. So you have more fields, more structs, and we can discuss that like separately in like an enhancement that we might propose, for example, the next release.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Let's I just want to flag that just so that we ensure we have sufficient time in this call, because this is effectively our last call with time to work around it, to talk about merging the original KEP and if there's anything left to talk about. But that's the reason I wanted to bring it up, because I want to make sure we have time for that while we're on this call. Sorry, Peter, you've had your hand up for a while. I'm going to shut up.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was just curious about, so does adding this additional like array field make it more complicated to kind of manually actuate if an interceptor gets stuck? I was wondering if that's kind of potentially like keep the API simple for now, make it easier to manually resolve an interceptor if there's a problem with the bool field, the active interceptor, and kind of cite that as like a potential reason to push back on the suggested change.
Yeah, I suppose it would make it more difficult. So, but like the main thing is like like this is not designed like to be manually actuated. So like like we expect, especially since we have the heartbeat itself, like we expect like the interceptors to do their work automatically. And like the first thing, like when you see that like the eviction request is not progressing, is going after the interceptor and look at its health and see why it is stuck and not doing the thing it should do. Because if you override it, it's the same thing as with finalizers today. Like you can do it, but you don't know what's basically going to be wrong.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah, because I think like I've seen a lot of like cases where you're developing something, finalizer gets stuck. You kind of need to go in there and surgically modify. That's kind of the use case I'm thinking about. But
Yeah, I'd like eventually like if something really goes wrong and you need this pod to go on, like you still can do manual delete. Like so like, we have some like ideas how to even change the delete behavior, but this is long to the future. So right now it should be easy to override.
got it. Okay. Just a quick question, I guess. Assuming we go forward with the current cap as is defined for alpha, what does modifying the API look like for beta? Is that just a deprecation and an adjustment? Or is there requirement to say support that existing field for active interceptor
Oh,
beta?
I think um yeah, I forgot how it is called, but I guess like when you have like we will first do like alpha 2, and that like there you can have like a progression, like conversion, sorry, like you convert from alpha 1 to alpha 2, and I think like we can convert this to alpha 2. So basically the fields are still there, but they are in a different place. So I think like we should be able to convert that and have a proper alpha 2 and eventually like remove the original fields.
Okay.
Yeah, and okay, so other point I noticed, I don't have any feedback on that, was I thought it might be useful to move the eviction request cancellation policy, which basically tells you if you can delete this eviction request or not, to move it to static interceptor declaration, since to me it seems like easier to comprehend. But yeah, the interceptor like declarative field in the pod spec will be a bit more complicated because you have another but this is still like created by the interceptor, so it's the same as in the status. So I don't know like if there is any advantage of like reconciling this in the status, and the advantage is that the requesters can know beforehand like which interceptor is going to cause this eviction request to get stuck. So like from observability perspective, I think this would be a better solution. But that one, this change is also can be moved to alpha 2. And yeah, so then we will not have like a nice conversion, but we would have like the same functionality, which I think we still can do as well. And the third part I noticed that would be nice to have, and I would like to see it maybe even in alpha 1, is like splitting the conditions. So right now we have only in this enhancement we have only a single condition called complete, but there are some like difficulties of reconciling and or using this condition. And I guess like we have actually 3 states, which are you either have like canceled or evicted, and then you have complete. And so like to me it makes sense to introduce these conditions even now. Like I don't know like if you have any opinions on that, or if I should go through these conditions.
When you say introduce these conditions now, do you mean like during this merge?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to maybe go through them quickly? Just so,
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the conditions, they are important because, for example, the requester has to know when to garbage collect the eviction request. And right now you only have the complete condition, which I still don't have like a clear guidance, like where I should set this. Like if so you have like the main 3 points is like if you cancel the eviction request, or if the pod is deleted or terminated, or if all the interceptors like stopped running. So like first, like we designed this in a way that we expected the last interceptor to terminate the pod, and this should coincide like with the interceptor run. But I expect that this might not be like the case in all scenarios, and you basically might have interceptors running even after the pod is deleted. So maybe it does some verification of the new pod that it's running somewhere, but it still needs to do something. And this ties together with the like GC that the requester has to know like at which point should I like garbage collect this eviction request. Should it be after the pod terminates, or should it be after all the interceptors have completed, or can I do it just right after the cancellation? And this problem is what these 3 conditions solve. So basically you have the information what the the eviction interceptor, or sorry, the eviction request, what stage or in stage in the life cycle it is in. Like if we have just canceled it, so in that case the interceptors are not running after the canceled, you can garbage collect right away. After the eviction, you can see that the pod is gone, but there is maybe still some reason to keep the eviction request because the interceptors might be still running, and after complete, you may be sure to delete this eviction request because you know the pod is deleted and the interceptors have completed as well. And there also like the cancellation policy comes in as well. So if you are evicted and you see the interceptors allow cancellation, you might like the requester might delete the eviction request garbage collected even after evicted, since the interceptors after that allow the cancellation, so we don't have to wait for them to complete. So like the end stage of the life of eviction requests that is like important to solve, I guess. Yeah, Lucy.
I don't think this is necessary for the merge for Alpha 1. This sounds like an advanced use case, which makes sense that maybe you would want an interceptor to be running after the pod is deleted. However, when I think about this, one of the things, this has come up in discussions at Uber, and when it's come up, the thing we said is actually we want, when we do this, we would, at least in our case, and I'm not saying this is everyone to be clear, at least in our case, we would want to create the new pod before deleting the old one. But in any case, when I actually think about this as a feature, like it makes sense. It does not make sense as a stop the boat, this must get in Alpha 1 or the world is over feature. This sounds like an extension for, oh, now you can have interceptors that are tracked and running even after the pod is deleted. But it does not sound in any way like eviction request. You remember what Tim said in November basically about he wants the API cut down as much as possible, potentially even beyond what it should be, just to show the absolute minimal API. I think this is part of that cutting for at least the initial merge, because when I think about this and I compare it to the standard he set for API review, where he said, if there is something we can get away with not having, it should not be there. This is something we can get away with not having in Alpha 1. It 100% makes sense. It 100% should be in by Beta 1. But it is not something where I think we should stop the boat for it. At least in my opinion. I would be very curious to hear what other people think. That isn't just me here.
Yeah, and if I can, or just quickly, yeah, I agree. Like coming back to this, like yeah, I like this also like is tied to the cancellation policy. Like technically we could do without it, and like like the thought behind this is like that we would like to like the requesters and interceptors like let them get familiar like with the like eviction request lifecycle. So so that you can expect like that when like the eviction request can be gone, etc. And like we spent like on the cancellation policy also some API review time, and we thought like this might be useful to have like from the get-go. Like this is more advanced, I suppose, because the cancellation is like possible, and this is more like we have these special interceptors that should be running even after the pod deletion. Like because nobody is doing that today, I guess, because it's not feasible. Possible you basically block before the like current imperative eviction, and then the pod is gone, and you have like other systems working on some other work, but it's tracked somewhere else, not in the pod. So I agree, like we can postpone this to later, and we can also have the discussion about the cancellation policy, like if we are okay with like introducing this like a bit strange concept later. I guess I can cut that out as well. Like there will like the alpha 1 alpha 2 transition will be quite difficult, but if it is makes it
An alpha.
easier to push through.
An alpha.
Sorry.
It's an alpha. We can do what we want in an alpha.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying this is yeah, but yeah. So we can like discuss this as well. So Ryan, please go ahead.
I wanted to understand what would somebody do when they saw this canceled condition versus completed? Like, what would they do any differently?
Yeah, so basically these are like signals. I like my main use case is garbage collection. So for now, these are main signals like when the requester or the entity like creating these eviction requests, like to know like what is the stage I can basically garbage collect these.
So if it's garbage, so if it's garbage collection, like, so that would the result be the same? Like, if cancel, you see cancel, you garbage collect. If you see complete, you garbage collect. Like, what would be the difference in your garbage collection, I guess? If the main use case is garbage collection, like, what would you do differently in your garbage collection if you saw canceled versus complete?
Okay, so canceled and complete is bit like same because like there is no not there is there isn't any work being done in the eviction request, so it's basically the same state, but the difference is basically between the evicted and complete. So this is the like place where the interceptor still might be running, and this will be decided like uh, like custom wise by the garbage collector if it should be garbage collected or not. And like in the like API design sense, it makes sense to see if it was canceled or completed. So you have some like better observability and maybe also track this in like metrics or other means to see like how the eviction requests are performing.
Okay. Then, so observability, like, yeah, I understand that. That makes sense. I guess where I was going is that I wanted to agree with Lucy that I think it's something we can probably do later for that reason, that for garbage collection, the use case garbage collection, we could probably get away with one field for garbage collection and then add the observability piece later. And that would be like an extension to this.
Okay, yeah. So we have a consensus. Yeah, I will not add it there and make sure the complete condition is enough in the alpha one. I'm not sure, like if you want to go back into removing like the cancellation policy, if
Yeah. Do we want to just correct me if I'm wrong? I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Do we have any pending changes now before we call for merge? I don't think we do, but maybe I'm out of the loop. I don't.
yeah, I don't think we have still like some
Basically, I was going to say, if there's anything we're considering changing, we should discuss it today, right now, while we're all on a call.
yeah. Okay, so there is one change that might, or two, a couple of points like discussed with Peter, who is also here in his review, which might be interesting to do. They are not like big changes, but like conceptually wise, like it'd be nice to have like consensus on them. So the first thing is, so like we decided to remove the priorities from the interceptors and just go with the order. And now we have like two like two like ways of expressing it. You go either go like FIFO or LIFO. So you take the first interceptor or the last one first, and each of these has advantages. So the like FIFO approach is like much easier to understand, I guess, and basically solves our solution or our use cases that we have today. So we expect like the interceptors to be added only like through the templates, through the like pod template, like bubbling through like a couple of like higher level APIs, and each of these is adding their own interceptor. And it makes sense like that the last in the chain is adding like the lowest priority interceptor, since it has like it has only the local knowledge of running that interceptor. And the second point is like the extensibility. So like we expect eventually these interceptors to be added post this. So once the pod is created by any controller, you have some like other controllers that are basically interacting with pods and like adding on-demand interceptors. So I mentioned like a couple of these here. So for example, like you have HPA, like some scheduling logic, checkpointing, or you couldn't have like logging, verification, like anything to be done at like on top of the original controller that is just these are just an add-ons that so, and in that case it makes sense to add it to the end of the, so each of these like interceptors doesn't override, like they basically there is no race for the first position. So and so these are like competing like ways of doing things, and this makes sense only after we introduce the, like the mutability. So it might make sense right now to like go with the like natural order of the list, like first out. Yeah. Any ideas?
I don't. Yeah, I'm glad that this is the level of change we're talking about, because this is a nice space where I feel more comfortable. But I think if I was to have an opinion on this, I would probably say, yeah, first in, first out from first to last. But I don't think it's that huge a deal. Peter, do you want to expand on your comment here, or do you have anything to add on top of the comment? Or
Yeah, I guess my only point, my overarching point is like the last entity to touch the pod, the one that actually creates it, is the one that gets to control the list. So like if there's some, mutating webhook that we have that like pops in, or a mutating emission policy that a cluster autoscaler or something does, it can put itself wherever it wants in that list. But thinking about it semantically from a user's perspective, like it's just more intuitive for me that it would start from first to last. So like, because any entity can reorder the list as long as they are getting there last, to me, it makes most sense to like have it work intuitively from what a user would expect.
that's fair, and I think I would agree with that sentiment. I personally would have no issues changing this to FIFO before the merge. But how do the rest of you feel? Is anyone? I guess the question really becomes then: is anyone committed to the other way? Is anyone putting a hand up here and saying there is a good reason this should be last in, first out?
Okay, I was looking at this mainly like from the update perspective. So I guess like you can have a race like either way. So you never know like what the order is going to be and what kind of controllers want to be where. So I tried to limit like the number of like shuffles in the list, like when there are like reorders. But I guess the like usability is like a very good argument that, yeah, I guess we can go with FIFO first. And like we will probably iterate on the priorities later as well. So let's go with the simplest approach.
Yeah, I think basically either order doesn't super matter, like from the perspective of like stability of the list, because like the same applies if we have it LIFO, but some entity puts itself at the back of the list. Like they're still going to be bickering with each other depending on what order the admission, the mutations happen. But which is why for me it's purely like a user semantic. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. So yeah, let's change this to FIFO. And the second point was about the minimum value of the heartbeat. So I know we've had some discussions about the maximum value of the heartbeat. So this like gives you the like most, like this gives you higher like safety for the interceptor to be disrupted. So it can still jump into the eviction request and like gracefully terminate or remove the pod. But this goes against like the priorities of the or like of the or like the meaning behind the requesters. So when you have like a node drain scenario, the node drain is interested in having the pods be the most like to be disrupted the fastest and have like basically the fastest feedback it can get. So these are like the competing interests that we try to like get in the middle of. And I basically looked at some of these fields we have, or some of these basically timeouts we have in our Kubernetes CI, where we look at how much time we give pods to start. So this is like 5 minutes or 15 minutes. So like originally I had like 10 minutes value here, but I changed it actually to 15 minutes. So like to me, it seems like the people might misunderstood this field, and if they like set them very small value, it could basically the interceptors might not expect that, and it could interrupt pods even when not like in scenarios like these interceptors would not expect. Peter, do you have any issues with like
Yeah,
even increasing the value, or do you want to even go like for a smaller one than 10 minutes?
Well, it felt a little bit like just the number 10 minutes. I was like, where did that come from? Like thinking intuitively about it, like, I'm trying to think of myself as an author of some interceptor, and like in computer time, 10 minutes is like super long in terms of like, how frequently it should be talking to some controller. Just like, I mean, I guess I'm not super familiar, but what are like other heartbeats in the Kubernetes ecosystem? That just seems like, and if an interceptor, like if there's a chain of like 3 interceptors and each of them for some reason perish in the midst of like intercepting a pod, then that makes like, this eviction timing become like, 30 or 40 minutes at minimum, which just seems like, I mean, obviously, like a lot of these workloads are being evicted on the scale of like tens of minutes to hours, depending on like what the actual like, scale down process looks like. But as a minimum, that just seems long. But I don't feel like I have enough experience as someone who would be an interceptor author to know whether or not that is actually really long. It just like intuitively feels like a really long heartbeat to me.
I don't mind whether it's 10 or 15. I think that we will get good signal basically from the alpha as to what people end up actually having their heartbeats take. I think after that would be a great time to consider what these defaults should be. But right now we're just guessing on vibes. But once we have data, I think we can make a much better decision here. But because of that, right now, I don't really mind what the number is.
Okay, yeah, I will get some of the feedback Peter said. Like, I don't think like we have anything comparative in Kubernetes today's. So I guess like the timeouts like for the probes, etc., are much faster than this. But like the thing we try to solve is like basically graceful termination, like for sensitive applications. So like if you want your like termination to be fast, like you don't put any interceptor, like it just goes without it. And you usually have like a good reason to add the interceptor there. So, and like we saw like in the presentations of the working group, like that sometimes like the clusters, when they are taken down, it's on the order of days even. So yeah, but also as Lucy said, like we can iterate on that later. But yeah,
I
we
think at least
can.
right now we just don't have enough data to make a firm decision. Like
Yeah,
we're
but
all
I
we're all
guess
kind of speculating and guessing as to
yeah,
what we think users will do.
but I guess like the reason I gave in the comment is a bit like we could go with that because when you have like a single pod interceptor that's being restarted and it's put on a different node, it can take considerable time before, for example, the image pulls. So I think like we should at least put like 10 or 15 minutes there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, this is not that big of a nit for me, so I'm fine with whatever value as long as it's coming from somewhere. We can always change it later. It'll be harder probably to increase than decrease the timeout value because if interceptors get used to the fact that it's 10 minutes and then it becomes 15, or rather, no, it'll be harder to decrease it, actually, I think. Because if the interceptors get used to it being 15 and then all of a sudden it's 10, then they would need to update to be able to like make sure they're giving their heartbeat more frequently. So lower seems better, like leaning towards the lower seems better to me. A user can always set it to be higher. It's not like this minimum is then becoming a default. It's just
Yeah, so the thing is like we also have the default, which is like 30 minutes. And the thing we did not solve yet is that if you have like multiple requesters, like who is going to put or set what value? So we said in the proposal that let's just use the default unless you have a good reason not to. And like ultimately I expect like each like cluster or each admin of the cluster will have like a different like knobs it can set, for example, in the cluster autoscaler, etc. And it will set their desired value there.
well, here's maybe a controversial direction. Like, why are we letting interceptors? Why is there a minimum and maximum value if we're like kind of asking everyone not to use it? Like, what practically as like an alpha adoption, at the alpha adoption phase, do we know we have a use case that like a heartbeat must be able to be increased or decreased, or like can we optimize this out of our alpha
Okay,
one?
so like as Lucy mentioned, like the main problem is like we don't have the data, like what kind of times people need. So they might need to tweak that value a bit until they have the like a good approach. And
That's
yeah,
That's
sorry,
true,
what?
but they also might not, like, and which is something that I'm like, I guess my overarching point in going through this API is like, as similar to what Lucy said, and I think the tension that we're all sort of feeling right now is like the deadline is coming up. We don't want to slip another alpha. We want to be able to make some progress. And to me, that means probably optimizing out a number of the more niche scenarios in favor of getting some decent default basic behavior in. And I don't think that this is a terribly hard thing to do. So if you really want it to be in there, I'm fine with that. I'm not going to like, publicly declare that I don't want it there, but just something to tease out, I think, as we are narrowing in on the kept freeze, like what could we optimize out that could meet the majority of the basic use cases for now, knowing that eventually we can extend extend this feature.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually don't think like this is such a like a big issue of having the field there. Like to me, it helps like folks to like shape their mental model about the direction request. So this is even like the API reviewers, the requesters, and the interceptors. So like if you are implementing the interceptor, you are giving or you are given a time like where you should respond. So you know that like you have some SLA that you need to conform to, and it's not arbitrary. It like comes from the API. So like if we and to me it's like just a single field. So I would and the thing about the default is that like we say like the requesters should use the default. So in the like a vanilla cluster, you have like some like collaborative behavior that's not like that doesn't interrupt itself. But in a custom cluster, you basically set each component evicting the pods, and you give them these values. So you basically have a way of configuring your use case, like if you want to.
Yeah, and I'm open to keeping it just sort of like it this field semantically it feels sort of ambiguous how we're planning on people using it, like which interceptor sets the minimum. That's a question. If we don't have that question answered and that question pops up in API review, would it be faster to answer that question or not have the field?
Yeah, I think like we first want to see like the implementation on the requester side. So for example, once we have the alpha, I'm planning to bring this to like cluster API folks and ask them like if we could have an alpha feature for cluster API and ask them how they want to use it, like what kind of like Heartbeat deadline they are comfortable with, or if they want to configure it. So I would really like to have these knobs that the requesters can use, since we will be targeting like these huge use cases, and we know like cluster API or cluster autoscaler, they have like tons of knobs like for configuring like the no drain or the eviction. There is so much you can configure. So I think like this is the important like point of like extension.
Could be too the you could say, I mean, the maximum amount of time is meant to be so that you don't get blocked. Like someone interceptor doesn't block you forever. And right, so like it's, you could say it's a usability thing, right? Like for adoption, like if we allow somebody to have an interceptor that blocks forever, that could be a bit of a problem from usability. So we just picked a value that is, maybe we don't even know if it's reasonable or not, but it just at least gives us a chance that, to not get blocked.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think having the at baseline the 30-minute heartbeat as a default sounds fine to me. And I'm not advocating we take that away. I'm just, being able to tune the maximum value and the minimum value. Yeah, it doesn't seem to me like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter that much. I don't think we need to be talking through it that much. The one sort of sense that I am getting from both API review and the conversations that happened at KubeCon last year, and just generally getting SIG approval and review, is like the fewer things, the better, in my opinion. Paring down, even if it doesn't cover 100% of the use case, covering 95% of the use cases is better than like missing alpha and covering zero. And so that's the position that I'm taking right now, is like, what can we optimize out to better the chances of getting something in? It's always possible to extend an API. It's hard to change it. And so if there are things that we're sort of not totally clear about on how they're going to be used, maybe we take those out for the alpha, the first alpha, knowing that we can always add them. But that's an overarching point. That's not precisely about this. So it's not like, my position is not like we need to take this out, but just like, I think that this is a hard kept to review and process, and the fewer things that it has, the better. So that's my point.
Yeah, I totally get your side. Like as I said, like to me, it's helps to shape the model how you think about the interceptors. Like if you have the blocking drain, as Ryan mentioned, and like if I get like a very big pushback, I will put it out. But I guess I can add like a section to the graduation criteria in alpha 2 or beta to basically reconsider the values like we have there and reconsider the usages.
Maybe a question or clarifying question for me in the use case I mentioned. Can you just hard code this? Is that where you're going, Peter? Is like we just hard
Exactly.
code this?
Hard code it to 30 minutes to start. We can always extend it later. Like, I think there should be a default. I think there should be a deadline. I think like evictions should be scoped in time at some point. But I don't necessarily think we need to have it be configurable yet.
Do we want to do that hard code now, or do we want to push this to API review? And if the API reviewer says you could get rid of this, then hard code it. I'm trying to weigh up what delays us less. Does
Right.
keeping it as it is get us through faster, and then changing it if they flag it too? Or does changing it now and then pushing it get us through faster? I'm very conscious of the kept deadline.
I'm not sure. Right
ahead.
now, I would say, like, as a SIG node reviewer coming into this KEP, it's daunting. It's huge. There are still reviewers who have yet to look at it, and the fewer things they have to look at, the more likely they are to move forward with it. There are API reviewers that have looked at it already and, haven't brought this specific piece up, but like, it's hard for me to advocate even to my other SIG node reviewers saying like, hey, look at this PR. It's like super long and it's kind of complicated and it takes a really long time to figure out. Like, so yeah. And I've been, in the node lifecycle working group, like keeping track and mostly paying attention. So like I have a head start.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the position I'm coming here with. Optimizing out things, I think at this stage could be beneficial to get more eyes on it, which we still do need.
I agree. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, and I really appreciate the perspective. Given that, I think we should. I think we should. I would like. I'm proposing we come to consensus that we just make this 30 minutes for now. But what do you all, the rest of you, think? I'm now formally saying that.
I have one question for Peter. So like when you read the cap, like did it help you like to comprehend like the behavior of interceptors and requesters when you saw like references to heartbeat deadline seconds?
I don't think any more than knowing that there is a 30-minute heartbeat deadline second would. Like having it configurable, I don't think extends my mental model any more than knowing that there is a deadline.
Okay, so I guess yeah, we can do that. So let's remove it and add it like to the like follow-ups or graduation criteria to say let's try to make it configurable if we see the use cases. Yeah, Lucy.
Okay. Yes, we have 2 minutes on the clock, and so I would like to just now ask basically, where are we going from here to get this merged in this cycle? Which reviewers do we not have yet? And where do you feel about consensus right now? Basically, what do we need to do today and in the next few days to make sure that this has a good chance of getting into the release?
I know like we don't have time, but can I like circle back to the cancellation policy? So
is everyone okay to stay on? Does anyone need to dip directly at the hour? Silence means you're all good to stay on. Go for it, Philip.
okay, so like to me, like if you want to simplify the cap and we are okay changing like the model of how the eviction request works in Alpha 2, the eviction request cancellation policy also adds like additional complexity that's not strictly needed. So like since like we can like this was written in a way that we do not do like forward breaking changes, and like the breaking change here in question is that the requester deletes the eviction request and it doesn't work. So and it's for some reason, and that's the new policy edit that forbids you the deletion of these requests. But in Alpha 2 we are still like allowed to do these like breaking changes. So in my point of view, this is to me this is maybe less needed even than the heartbeat deadline seconds. So I would like personally remove it unless like anyone has any like other concerns.
I'm a big +1 on optimizing out anything we can in Alpha 1. So I agree.
Okay, sounds good. So this should simplify the cap considerably. And since it is referred in quite a lot of places, so I will fork these changes to a different branch and add just as like a simple follow-up that we have to do in like future releases. And yeah, so yeah, we can return back to the like Lucy's question about like the reviewers. And so I think like for like the API approver is like Tim Hawking, and like Signode approver is Don. So I think like we basically need, like we have
Need Tim and Dawn,
like
basically. I have a
yeah,
one-to-one with Dawn tonight, so I will make this the first thing I ask about.
okay, cool. So I guess I will try to like do these removals as fast as I can. I still have a couple of meetings today, but we'll try to do it later tomorrow or later today in the evening.
Yeah.
And so we can even say like again, like ping them and say like we have simplified the cap even more. This is even more simpler, and we are happy to progress.
Yeah, sounds good. So I can do the reach out to Dawn. Who is going to do the reach out to Tim? Philip, are you going to do it? Ryan, are you going to do it? I don't mind who.
Yeah, I can do it. I already pinged him, but I guess I can like
Tablet.
ping him with the new changes, like that we even like simplified it, so there is a lot less things to look at.
Another option that could help that is if we get I don't know if we've gotten Joel's official looks good to me. I think if we get like in a similar way that I'm combing through from a Signode perspective and like trying to prepare the field for when Don looks at it, the more like preliminary reviews that we get before we actually get an approver looking at it, the better. So maybe if we can get Joel to do another pass, I think that will like increase Tim's confidence in the cap as it stands, and then potentially help like get that review faster. So that could be another approach.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I guess, yeah. Once I have like the removals in, I will ping Joel and ask him to do another pass and try to sync with him on like basically about, because he also would like to see the API changes, but I will sync with him like what we plan to do in the future, and that we really want this API to be simple as we can.
Sounds good. I might also start a soft thread, aka a soft DM group with Sig Release, just to see how they feel about an exception if it's like a few days, basically, between freeze and us actually getting approved, just because I know it's very tight now. I'm not saying I'm asking for an exception, I'm saying I would like to feel out their vibes on one.
Okay, yeah, we can do that later this week.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, I have a one-to-one with Dawn in 55 minutes, so I will make sure it is the first thing I bring up is this cap. And then I will say during that Philip, you said you're going to have these changes in tomorrow, I think you said?
Yeah, by tomorrow I will try to do that. Yeah.
I will make sure that's communicated up to her. And then yeah, Tim, we can make sure Joel as well reviews it as well. But yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, Joel's office hours are over today, so like I will ask. Yeah, I will ask him tomorrow. So I hope he will have time to do it as soon as he can.
Awesome. All right, sounds good. Yep. Let's for the leads in this group, let's check in on Wednesday on progress and make sure we're on track. And then if we have any blockers, then we can what's the word? Yeah, if we have any blockers by then we can action them then. But let's keep a tight eye on this, just because I know the deadline's coming up.
Okay, sounds great. Ryan, sorry that we didn't get to your topic.
Sorry,
That's
Ryan.
okay.
It's kept
would I be able to? Yeah, I know. Would I be able to ask though, real quickly to the group that's still here? And actually, the same question you asked Lucy is like, like what is left? What's like remaining for the specialized life cycle management side? And I actually have the same question. So so for this cap for 136, the reviewer from Signode is Dawn, and then Derek Carr is the API reviewer. Logistically, I mean, the same thing. Like I would need to get review from those people, and then I don't know. Like this is again like because this kep's been around for as not as long as the interceptor one. I don't know what else like would be needed to help us just push this along. But I don't know. I'm open for recommendations from people.
In my perspective, or I don't know, like Peter is also here. Like basically, there needs to be some consensus from Signode that we want this, since it touches like kubelet and like node concepts.
I would be surprised if we can get that's issues, but I think the SLM is still earlier in its journey compared to eviction request, just because I don't think we really socialized it, except in our working group. We've talked about it a lot, but we haven't really talked about it with Node much, unless I've missed a Sig Node meeting recording or something.
I brought it up once. Yeah, I brought it up once. I did not go through the details. That's sort of the thing, actually, is what I was actually going to ask. Is like, so I brought it up once just to bring attention to it, also to the device management working group, as to get attention to review this. But I haven't gone through in detail with that group. So maybe that's like the question is like maybe that's the next logical step would be to try and spend time doing that in the Signode group. Would that make sense?
That would make sense. Do we want to do that maybe just after the kep freeze, just because I know that every SIG and working group right now is the classic pre-kep freeze chaos. I see a thumbs up from Peter, which
tomorrow and next week are going to be hard to get enough time to really go through it. So I would recommend after kep freeze.
Okay, so we can hit the ground running then in a few weeks then. Okay, so sounds good. Okay, that works for me. Thank you.
Yeah. I think like I know this is simpler than the node maintenance, but there were like quite high marks needed for the node maintenance to go through. I mean, to basically have the consensus from like Signode and all the like folks this concerns.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I understand where you've got time constraints. It's just the way it is with, the way this came out. So that's fine. I can take it through the regular channels when that opens up.
Yeah, and I think like the opportunity, like we will also like have an opportunity at KubeCon. So like if we iterate on that cap a bit more, I guess 137 could be a good chance to go through with that.
On that is also part of the reason why I'm so committed to getting eviction request in this release, is because we are talking about it at KubeCon. So so we kind of have made a deadline for ourselves.
Yeah, true. Yeah, okay. So yeah, let's simplify it, try to get reviews, and hopefully we will not have like the release exception.
Yeah, hopefully not, but let's start warm socializing that rather than just turning up at SIG release like a day before and going, please let us accept, please give us exception. Let's just at least try and socialize it out a bit and show that we're thinking about it, not just running to them. Because I know that they sent out that whole email last release about like, guys, please stop railroading us. So let's not do that.
Okay, great. So thanks a lot, everyone, for all the feedback, and good luck.
All right. Good luck, folks. Hopefully we can get this merged.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.